Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Empire.
Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone. All right, I'm gonna warn you, this is audio only today. For you YouTube people, thank you for watching us on YouTube lately. We'll keep doing that normally, but I'm still in my hotel room in Tampa. I'm flying, I've been taping this, and I'm flying this morning back, and the lighting and just, I look like it's a hostage video. So we're not gonna show it to you. And so it's just audio only today, and we'll get back on YouTube tomorrow. So thank you for your patience. It's not that I'm hiding my face after what was a really bad opener by the Commanders. That was really bad. Like, I'm not couching it. That was really bad. It doesn't mean things can't change. And you know me, I will circle the wagons and figure out ways to feel like, hey, no big deal. But I'm not going to sit here and go skin tangibles on you and pretend that was good, because it really was not. It wasn't.
No, and to reiterate your point on your lighting, I wish there was a video of me when I opened up our video. I like cringed of how bad you looked. So yeah, I would just say this. So yeah, you don't want to see the video right now.
I was hoping the lighting would be better, because I thought you'd be really psyched to see where I am, which is literally, I opened up the curtains behind me because the Lightning's arena is literally behind me. I was like, you're gonna love this, and that doesn't work because I clearly don't understand lighting whatsoever. It looks like I'm in a hostage video. So
right.
No video today. I'm not hiding my face. I'm here to talk to you all. I was very pumped about what we were going to get yesterday, and really surprised on both sides of the ball just how much there is to go. And so now in hindsight, I'm going, okay, they played a playoff team who had basically their whole team back and had almost no turnover. They signed all their guys, and Baker Mayfield is now week 1 leading candidate for MVP, because that was a shredding. So I want to start on that side of the ball. I think we were all told, you're going to like the way we play. We're extremely aggressive. We're going to get our hands on the ball. Ball is life, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of us, cover it and watch it go. I don't know if you have a number 1 corner, so that could be a problem. I don't know if you have a number 2 corner, so that could be even a bigger problem. Where are you going to get the pass rush from, right? We've said this for months and months and months. You don't have the Montez Sweat, Chase Youngs of the world. That's fine. You have professional players. I get it. And the scheme may help. You guys will play very aggressively, and I love the upgrade at linebacker. That actually was one of the few things that really showed up yesterday, Luvu and Wagner. And, and we said, okay, I'll buy into the coaches telling me that they're going to make the defense better by scheme and coaching. And it's not like they don't have viable players like on the edge rush. They just don't have the top end players, and they've made corners into turnover machines. Okay. Deron Bland breaks records last year for the Cowboys. I'll buy it. All right. I'll buy into it. And in game 1, they were not ready for prime time on that side of the ball. Some of it was the surprising part, bad tackling. I was just very, very surprised. Bad tackling. When you're this team and you talk about you're going to like the way we get down and we're going to bring it, they could have sacked Baker Mayfield 5 or 6 times, and he got away multiple times. He played great. I'll get to him in a second, because he really actually, I thought, that's part of the story. He played really great. And then if he's going to escape, or you're not going to get your hands on him enough, he's got a trio of receivers that is really, really good. I don't know about best in the NFL, but really, really good. They've put a lot of money into their offensive line. Rachaad White's a good enough to top 10 running back, versatile running back. This turned out to be a bad matchup, for week 1. I was hoping that it wouldn't be, and I had talked myself into that it wouldn't be, but it was. And a lot of it's of their own making, though. It is. I mean, when you tackle that way or you have all these chances at sacks and you don't get them, well, you're asking for it. And that's what they got yesterday.
Yeah, I think the most unfortunate part is I've gone into the season and you've heard me talk is I understand what they're up against. They're up against a roster that's been turned over by half. They're trying to build a new culture again. Like it's a rebuilding year. Like they won't say that. No, they've tried to say, oh, we want to win now. I wasn't buying that a couple weeks ago. And so my expectations have been kind of set. The problem yesterday, though, was it was some of the same problems. Like the tackling, as you mentioned, how is that still happening, even though we're 3 regimes later when it's been terrible? That was discouraging. As I said to you on Friday, it was going to be a quote unquote test for the secondary against the wide receivers. Well, it wasn't really a test because I don't think they really participated. I mean, it was really bad in the secondary.
That was a failure. Yeah, that was a failure.
And so bad that I can't really recall a coach just kind of saying, yeah, we're not good there. Quinn didn't say that, but I forget who asked the question. He just said, yeah, we've got some work to do there. Yeah. And I mean, that's an acknowledgement of we've been dealt with the hand that we've been dealt. And like I said, my expectations were not high and I knew this would be a tough matchup. I just hated seeing some of the same mistakes. And I will say this though, on the pass rush thing, there were some times, I mean, they didn't tackle Baker. I get that. There were some times though the interior looked really good. I mean, they blew up the interior of that offensive line. That's what we've been waiting for years from that pair of Allen and Payne. So to see that actually, happen a couple of times, I thought that was a good takeaway. At least I'm with you though. Like the secondary was just abysmal, and the third downs, man. I mean, it just felt like in the second half they were every time it was third down, you're like, well, how are they going to give it up this time? Because they constantly kept giving them up.
So 7 of the 8 true series that Tampa Bay had, they scored 7 of 8. They scored every drive they had in the first half. They finally were forced to punt in the second half. You're just not going to win. And again, I kept telling myself before the game, I go, and I said this, I think I said this a number of times last week. I said, I would rather play them now, Tampa Bay, than later. I buy them. I think they're really good. Like when I saw the number, 44 of their 53 players were either drafted or undrafted free agents. They brought their whole team back. They kept all their guys. I remember I talked to my friend Sarah Walsh, who covers them for NFL Network, and she was telling me early in the summer, she's like, I really buy them. And she goes, people don't talk about this. She's like, one, people don't talk about them because it's just for some reason it's Tampa. They just don't talk about them. They've won their division 3 years in a row. They're the only NFC team that's been in the playoffs 4 years in a row. They have a Hall of Famer at wide receiver. Baker's found himself there. And what never makes headlines is when you sign your own guys, when you're a team like this. And they did. Like they signed Tristan Wirfs. They signed Antron Winfield. They didn't lose. They signed Mike Evans. They didn't lose any of their guys. They felt like they had gotten better. And, I thought, I'm like, okay, they don't know what we're going to do. So that's probably the good news of playing them now. As it turned out, we didn't fool them, specifically on offense. I'll get that in a minute. But defensively was a massive disappointment. And we kept being told the secondary's fine. And throughout the spring and summer, I think one of the things that I always constantly pointed to, I'm like, there are 2 things I expected them to do. I know they did a million things in the offseason. You can't fix everything. But there were 2 things I expected Adam Peters to do. And one was to probably bring in another tackle veteran to compete. And the other was, I don't think the team is a number 1 corner. And if they are going to go spend some money, and there were some corners available, that they were going to have to go out and do that. And they felt like they were good enough at that position. And after week 1 against a very high level trio, it just wasn't the case. And I'll bring this up because Benjamin St. Juste said this in the locker room. And there were a couple other players I had talked to kind of on the side. And they had basically all said, and this was a surprise too, that the communication on that side was poor yesterday. Very poor between this group. And that part was surprising because here's something that Quinn was harping on in camp. And he kept saying, I'll know when we're ready when I hear everybody before I see it out on the field, just harping on communication. This was something that marred the Rivera era constantly. Every single year, there was confusion on the back end. And by year 3 of it, we were kind of like, it's the same defensive coordinator. How could you all be confused? Like, why is this so confusing? And then I would get, all the London and them would tell me, they're like, here's the reason why they're confused. And he would just go through all these things. And he said, that's on the coaches. He felt bad for the secondary. I thought that would be one thing that overnight, and maybe that's unfair, was going to change. But because they talked about it so much in camp, and we heard it in practice when we were there, you could kind of see this communication. I was surprised that after game one, that was lacking, missing, and they talked about it in the locker room that it wasn't there. So the only little glimmer of hope I have off of what is just one bad game, which is the other part of it, it is just one bad game against a good team, is that I actually think that can be fixed, that they're acknowledging it early, that they're saying it was happening fine in camp. We don't know what happened here. Like they got the lights turned on and all of a sudden everybody forgot to talk to one another. I'm going to buy that will get better as it goes along and it will get fixed. It doesn't change the underlying fact that maybe they're not good enough out there with the personnel that they have. Maybe they're not. But from that perspective, that's got to get better. And that was probably the biggest surprise on defense. Once they said that was happening, that was the biggest surprise to me on defense.
Yeah. And I mean, what I also liked is not only, like you mentioned there, you not only acknowledged it, but even Quinn said, we're looking for the identity. And he's like, the growing pains to get through that, you have to go through them, essentially, is what he said. And so I'm with you. Like, I know it's the same mistakes, but even the fact that he's acknowledging, like, this is going to be tough sledding for a little bit is okay. And the way and here's the thing too, Ron would give us some kind of word salad and we'd have to mark it down for later. And then when he goes back on that, we have to call him out on it. Quinn straight up is saying, we've got to work on this. We acknowledge we've got to work on this. Bear with us for a second. So at least the communication seems to be good for when it comes to things going wrong. The head coach is actually on the same page as everyone else actually watching the games as well. And when it comes to the communication thing for the secondary, same thing. At least he's acknowledging what's happening here, because I'll remember this too. I think it was year 3. Remember Jack said something it was either Jack or Ron said something along the lines of like, oh, well, we didn't have these guys here in OTAs. And it was just like, dude, the practices in the spring aren't affecting how they're communicating in week 1. Like, it might have a slight effect, but to tell me that was the work affecting them on the field, that's I'm not buying that. So like, same thing. At least we know the communication is a little bit different than making excuses, I guess, is what I'm getting at as well.
Yeah. Listen, the pressure by the line was better than I expected it to be. I haven't rewatched yet. And that always kind of tells the tale. And I'm going to do that tonight. But the tackling was poor. And they could have sacked Baker Mayfield 5 or 6 times. And they didn't. And as it turns out, he's pretty accurate. There was another stat that I saw in preparation for the game where he was number 2 in passer rating and number 3 in passing yards under pressure last year. So he's really turned his career around to the point where if this is what it's going to be, that he escapes and makes these great throws, the 2 touchdown passes to Evans were perfect. There's kind of nothing you could do about it. Then, they are going to be a playoff team again, and they are going to be dangerous. And he was that's part of this too. And I think it's just fair to say sometimes the other team is really good. And I thought Baker Mayfield was just outstanding yesterday. Could have been sacked 5-6 times. Didn't. Was very tough, extremely accurate. A couple of throws were great. And then it didn't hurt that there was miscommunication in the secondary. And there was that guy McMillan, who I kind of flagged last week. I had heard, I'm like, watch out. They think this third guy is going to really uncork the offense for them. He could have had a touchdown in the first half, drew the penalties against Forbes in the second half, did have a touchdown in the second half. They're dangerous. They're a very good, very dangerous team. All right. Other side of the ball. So the fact that Terry McLaurin had 4 targets, 2 catches for kind of no yardage. The leading true receiver was Luke McCaffrey. I could not believe this, that at halftime, there was not a single yard gained by a wide receiver. Not a single yard was gained by a wide receiver. I don't know what to attribute that to. I need to, again, go back and look. I'll get to Jaden and running, and actually, I'm very positive about his performance. Really off for a rookie and his first start, and against a highly aggressive team and a very good team and a team that's very hard to run on and all that stuff. Like, I actually thought like he played relatively well. I'll get to him in a moment. But the passing game was non-existent. Like, outside of the few moments to Eckler or Ertz, but nothing down the field, very rarely targeting receivers. And when we were talking about a few weeks ago, who's the number 2 receiver, and they kind of just talked over it. Like, we don't have that. We'll do it by committee. I was looking at this group going, the profile reads they're going to run the ball a lot, maybe partially because where are the explosive players outside of Terry? And there just weren't any yesterday. This leads me back to, I don't know why De'Ami Brown isn't targeted a little bit more, because here is someone who could stretch the field for you outside of Terry, about the only one that looks like could stretch the field. The ball just was not finding its way to the wide receiver's hands at all, almost as if it didn't really exist in the offense. And so we have to talk to Quinn Kingsbury about what was the game plan going in, because that's not just choices by Daniels, because he did run the ball a lot, off schedule where he wasn't supposed to run the ball. He just was escaping pressure. But the plays didn't develop to find wide receivers. So I need a little more information on what happened to the passing game to the point that the receivers aren't literally targeted. I mean, it was very strange.
Yeah, I mean, I just made the assumption they were probably cheating to Terry's side. Terry was going to be double covered the entire game, and they're daring to throw to any of these guys who, honestly, when it's all said and done, if you're not in the know like we are, they're just Jags. You take a look at that wide receiver group and you think, wow, they really don't have anyone besides Terry. That's the outside perspective. The other one was Jaden had a miss. We'll get to Jaden in a bit, but he had a miss with Terry, the deep, shot on the sideline, and he's going to want that back because that should have been a touchdown. And so that was one where I said, okay, but it's always bad when you see an offense that does a lot of dump offs and then takes a few shots down the field. It means that you're not getting your guys open for the normal routes, essentially, that you're not going for either the fact that you're only going for the home run or the dump off or the short pass. It means that your scheme isn't that good right now, or your players aren't that good to get open, all up and down the receiving tree. So that's what my takeaway was, they can't figure out how to get these guys open. Or it's the other side too, where Jaden just doesn't trust his throw to some of these guys, or wasn't willing to make that risk in traffic. And maybe there's a little bit of rookie, hesitation paired with the wide receiver skill, but I'm really not surprised. I think we're going to get a lot of this year. They just don't have enough skill there.
Yeah, I think this is going to fast track Noah Brown to play more. Like, I think that's probably going to happen. I had talked to Quinn on Friday about it, and he just said he just hasn't been here long enough, and they just didn't feel like he was comfortable enough to go and play, and that's why he was inactive yesterday. That clearly is going to have to change, because they're going to have to find answers at this position. But this is another one that goes back to, we asked you a million times, do you think you have the personnel at this spot? And in this particular one, they said, yeah, they did. And so, you have to force yourself to believe that they know better than you do. And, in week one, it was hard to see it. And here's the part about what happened yesterday offensively that really, I think we need to take into account. So I started to get real confident that they could steal this when the injuries for the Buccaneers started to pile up. Like, all of a sudden, Kalijah Cansey isn't playing, went from injured list to not playing. Two other members of their defensive line, Logan Hall, one of them, who's a good player, were not playing yesterday. They called up two guys off their own practice squad and signed another from the Arizona practice squad and had them on the active roster. Okay. So this is their defensive line. Yes, they have Vita Vea, but they're missing everybody else. Like, they're essentially missing everybody else. Then in the middle of the game, two of their corners get hurt and go out. And this team still couldn't throw the ball. So against a defensive line that the back end of which was rotationally going to have practice squad players playing, or a guy who'd been there for 2 days, and then injuries forced a couple of guys out, unfortunately for them, and it's brutally hot, that this is where I went, okay, Washington's catching a humongous break today. Like, humongous break. Couldn't take advantage of it. And that's disappointing. And again, it's the first go, but I always say this all the time to you. It's not who you play, it's when you play them. And this was actually the right time to catch their defensive line and they didn't take advantage of it. They couldn't really run the ball outside of Daniels, and most of it in the first half was not designed plays. Like he just scrambled, and they couldn't throw the ball on the outside definitively. Like the only real success they had throwing the ball was in the middle to Ertz or Eckler or screen plays. Couldn't really get the ball downfield. There wasn't even intermediate throws that were occurring. Very little of that until the end of the game when it was kind of over and they were letting them run the clock. So again, I really want to rewatch, but that's disappointing. Like this offensive line that we have a lot of questions about got a group that was beat up and banged up. And yes, they're going to bring a lot of pressure, but beat up and banged up, and they couldn't take advantage of it. That's disappointing.
No, I think what I was kind of talking about, the missed tackling of not just being a kind of like thorn in this team's side, not just for this regime or the past regime, but like 3 regimes. The whole taking advantage of injuries thing was like, oh, come on. Like, how are we not taking advantage of this? It's something that has happened for years here where it doesn't happen and they don't target a certain area. That's one thing that, I don't really understand is how they're not targeting those areas, or at least starting to take more shots at some of those cornerbacks or going right at some of those defensive linemen. And they didn't. I will say this, though. Vita Vea was causing chaos by himself. So, I mean, you have to give him credit there, but it was a little bit more of those same problems. And it's just disappointing to see the same problems crop up now through, 2 or 3 regimes straight, it seems.
Now on Jaden, like I feel, and again, not having rewatched, I really want to take a look back to see, did he vacate a little too soon? Because one of the things that I really liked about him in the spring and summer was, yeah, he's capable of doing the things that you saw, but it's not his first instinct, and it's not the way that he kind of goes about it. He is kind of pass first, and he uses his legs when he has to, and then the design runs are the design runs. And I'm not surprised he scored a couple times in the red zone. Quinn had told me on Friday, they go, like, and we saw this in the preseason when they scored with him against the, against the Jets when they scored with him. Like, they're going to use him down there. Like, he described it to me as, we want the defense to have to cover all 11. So we're not going to shy away from that he's going to be someone who's dangerous. And they should. He's capable of doing it down there. But a lot of it in the first half was him taking off. And was that him feeling pressure that maybe was, there or not there? Was his feel for it not quite there? His instinct to get out? I mean, clearly he's an advanced runner. Maybe he took a couple hits that we didn't like. I know his helmet came off a couple times. I didn't really think he took anything that was extreme. I didn't really think, I didn't think he put his body in harm's way the way like RG3 did. I don't remember. I didn't see it that way. I got to rewatch. But I do want to see, was he sped up by Tampa Bay, that he was getting away from throwing the ball too quickly? I got to see. His athleticism is clearly on display. I do like that he didn't seem frustrated by anything. Like, he came out in the second half, threw that ball. I'm with you. Like, I wish we had that one back, because I think that was the one that could have gotten hit. I didn't feel like it was him that was limiting them at all. I think their offensive line has work to do. It's another position group that we were concerned about, but has work to do. The passing game was just not on at all. And I want to talk to Kingsbury about it to get his explanation of how in the world do you have a game where the wide receivers just have absolutely no role in it, or like are just incapable of completing any passes to them and having any kind of yardage with them. And then with Daniels, did he leave a little too soon? Was it, just got to give him patience, give him a little bit of time. When he sees this a few more times, he'll adjust to it. He does keep getting better. He's never looked like a rookie to me. I didn't feel like he looked like a rookie yesterday, honestly. I want to be honest about it. Like, I actually very positive about the way he played. I really do want to rewatch, but I really am positive about the way he played. But that wasn't a fully functioning offense. And part of that might have been him getting out of the plays just a touch too soon. So I need to take a look at all of it, really.
I think with Jaden, I agree with most of your points. Is one, the athleticism looked like he belonged in the NFL. Like, I was waiting to really see,
no doubt,
like where it lines up when the bullets are really flying. And to that point as well, all I saw yesterday was kind of a first-year player getting used to the timing. Like that throw to Terry was rushed.
Agreed.
Like, he had an extra beat. If he took his time just for a second, he would have been fine on that. And that's okay. Like, we know that we're going to get this with him. It wasn't going to be perfect out of the gate. So all I saw was a guy that was kind of trying to figure out his timing. Like, I even look at that first play where, it ended up being a lateral essentially, and they lose 15 yards, and it kind of banged the first drive. But all I saw was a guy that really was like kind of looking to get his timing down. I'm with you. I'm interested to see, did he pull the ball down and run a little bit too fast? I'm going to guess yes, because like I said, I think it was just more about timing for him. The one thing that even the broadcast on TV was making fun of, I caught it on TV for the second and third quarter. I caught you guys in the first and fourth. With the TV broadcast, even Moose was kind of like, he does not know how to slide. Like, and that was apparent. Like, he was kind of doing this weird, like, dive forward where he was clearly like pulling up, in the defense. Like, he got one of the penalties. He kind of baited the defense on getting one of them in the first half. But that's the other thing that I'm kind of like, all right, guys, can we teach this guy to fall down, because he was falling really awkwardly. And I know it's another knock on him that we've been talking about, but even the broadcast was acknowledging, like, all right, figure out how to get this guy down, because he's going to get himself hurt if he's just doing these weird, like, swimming dives into the ground.
But he never took any, like, he took one hit, but he didn't really take a lot of those unnecessary hits. Like, he got done awkwardly, but he got down. So, there's that. And I agree with you. I think it was his first real go, and I'm not worried about him. Like, he was the one part of this where I went, oh, he's going to be fine. Like, everything that's going on around him, we'll see. And how much of the passing game not really clicking or being non-existent was actually him getting out of plays a little too soon. That's a possibility. So I want to talk to Kingsbury and all that stuff about it. Again, I think Andrew Wiley, I think that's going to be a topic. It's going to continue to come up for sure. They did rotate the tackles. There's this one clip of when Daniels was running where you see Brandon Coleman. I think you see the athleticism on display. You'll see it on Twitter if you find it, where he's just charging down the field, and the guy can move for someone his size. This is why they love the athleticism that they have in him. I know that the goal is to get him to be the full-time starter sooner rather than later. And if that were to happen, and if he becomes a consistent, player, and I think that's an ask because he's a rookie, then I think we'll have some conversations about what happens at right tackle down the rest of the season and who ends up, playing. We'll see how it plays out. But, overall with him, I think he was a positive, like those rushing yards are skewed. It looks really good and it's pretty in a box score. And Van Pelt's going to talk about it and be like, look at those numbers from a rookie, outside of he'll be realistic because of what the score was, but recognize that most of that was not designed runs. And that was just him putting athleticism on display. And some of it might be, this is why the passing game, especially early, didn't really exist, because he was vacating plays just a little bit early. So I want to rewatch and see where that ends up.
No, I agree on that.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll go through the rest of week one next. Very much the show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Very much the show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. I do want to mention before I leave Tampa, I've been down here a lot, Florida, this last month. We spent 5 days in Miami for the joint practice and then the second preseason game. Now I'm in Florida. I had to go down to Florida, you remember, for something else like about a month ago. So I've been down here a lot, which, sounds about right. Middle-aged Jewish person finding time to spend in Florida, like, sounds about right. It feels like in my life that I should probably start thinking about doing that. Maybe not this time of year because it is ridiculous hot here. But the thing that is noticeable, and I've been to all different parts of Florida here over the last couple of months, is just how collectively drunk everybody is at all times. And I keep forgetting it because it's not like our area. Like I'm not accustomed. Every time I come down here, I'm not accustomed to it. And it's everywhere. Like whenever you go out, the bar is collectively wasted. And it's so funny because in our area, there are places you can go for that, for sure. If you want to find that, no problem. But you have to go to the place. It's not everywhere, it's not like people stumbling down the street or mumbling incoherently or you're at the lobby bar and I had the guy who comes up to you with the crazy eyeballs and like clearly is bent, and like, like doesn't know how to like interact with you for a minute with it. Like, why did he come up to a stranger anyway? But he did. And so I'm just not used to it. I'm not accustomed to it. I'm not complaining about it. I kind of like it, but I'm not accustomed to it for sure.
No, it's there's actually a lot of common here with DC, man. You just can't smell the weed down there. You just smell
That's
the weed up
true.
here when you're in the city,
True.
and when you're down
That's
there,
true.
you don't smell the booze. It's the same thing, actually. I actually, you're actually in the same thing. It's just different substances that are being
Yeah.
used.
Yeah, I mean, it's all rail tequila down here. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's rail tequila. Like, and everybody's just bent. Like, it's just like full on. Like, wow. Like, what is happening down here?
You and I have talked about it. You can be in Chinatown now at 9 a.m. and you still smell it down
That's
there.
true.
So I'm just saying. I think
That's
it's
true.
we're the same. We're just dealing with it differently. We're
Yeah,
different
different deal with
substances.
differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm used to the high people and the extraordinarily inebriated people are two different breeds for sure.
Yes.
Like that is
No, for sure. Yes,
they are.
absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
the same
absolutely.
person.
No.
That's not the same issues of when you're dealing with them at all. It's not.
And in fact, I would say you probably want, besides the smell of weed, I think you want to deal with that person more than the guy with the glassed over eyes at the bar, because you don't know what he's going to do or say after that. So
Correct.
I'm just saying, like, I actually think, you can smell one, but I think the clientele is a little bit better than the other one. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Anyway, not that I like it down here. I was, maybe I'm just kind of turning. I liked it down here. I like Tampa, actually. Nice town, fun town, great stadium, by the way. Really, really great. I forgot, like, would always put like bucket list places you should go. I don't know about bucket list for this place, but it's a great venue, like really, really great venue. Terrible game. Good presence by the Commanders fans, by the way. I will tell you, there were a lot of people down here. Like over the 24 hours I was here, there was some rally that was held. There was almost 1,000 people at it. Everywhere
Wow.
I went down town, there were Commanders people all over the place. I ride the bus with the team to go to the team to the games in the in the morning, when we go, because we leave early and they take us over. And every week, this is one of my favorite parts of riding over, because you get an escort through. There's always the fans that are out on the street and recognize what that is. And most of the time we get the finger, from all the people as we like drive by. But there were so many Commanders fans out around that like we were getting like the cheers going down the street. And I'm like, boy, this is different. So they had a very good presence yesterday. Let them down with the first performance. They'll turn around and, I hate the one part that really stinks about this is like, they kind of can't lose this weekend now because people are going to flip out because the Giants looked terrible yesterday in those utterly ridiculous uniforms that they wore. And now we kind of have to home game against a team that got throttled at home by nobody thinks is a good team. Whoa, boy, welcome to the NFL, Jaden. Welcome back to the NFL, Dan Quinn, head coach. It's going to ramp up fast this week. Like, people are going to be talking about, you have to win this.
Oh, I was going to say, welcome to week 2 must win. We are a part of that crew. I agree 100%. You cannot lose to this Giants team. They looked abysmal yesterday. So, yeah. I'm right there with you.
28-6, they lost. The jerseys we had seen and made fun of, but boy, are they terrible. After Saquon Barkley had, because they played Friday night, 3 touchdowns. How's your boy Joe Shane feeling today? Like, at that Hard Knock show, I'm like, that's not good. It's not going to play well. It's now documented that the owner lets the GM make the decisions. The owner is on record saying, I'm not going to be able to sleep at night if he goes to Philadelphia. Now they come out, they lose 28-6 to the guy who last time he played there saw ghosts. It's pretty bad. It's really bad. But, hey, I'm not throwing stones at anybody, not after the way we played yesterday. And, we're going to take every opponent very, 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 very seriously, even though I saw a good amount of them yesterday. It was pretty bad. It was really bad.
I jokingly said if I was a Giants fan, I would buy one of those jerseys in a Daniel Jones, like a Daniel Jones 100th anniversary jersey, just because that's the state that they're in. Like, they have a quarterback that they don't want. They're wearing ugly jerseys. They're getting blown out by a team that should be pretty bad. And yeah, not great for them. And I'm with you. Watching Saquon on Friday, at the first half, I was like, okay, maybe he's lost half a step. And then he settled right in and he looked amazing. Yeah. And why you let that guy go, I have no idea. So
for $500,000 or what, you're right, whatever little silly hang up you had is exactly what it is. All right. Kirk's debut doesn't go well for Atlanta. They only scored 10 points. Welcome to Tomlin world. He just figures out a way to win games. They kicked 6 field goals. Any of you that had Chris Boswell in fantasy yesterday won because of your kicker. which is unbelievable. 350 plus yard field goals amongst the 6 field goals. It's another thing for us that we didn't bring up real quickly. To give up the 7th round pick, Cade York has to be on the Commanders for 2 games. My gut tells me he will not be on Commanders for 2 games. That apparently was the contingency of the 7th round pick, not just make the roster, but be on for 2 games. So they have a decision to make this week after the couple of misses. And it wasn't even just that. He kicked a kickoff out of bounds, gave the ball at the 40. It was pretty bad yesterday. Anyway, Pittsburgh figures out a way. Russ had that crazy look on his face like I should be out there. Fields was fine, fine. This was vintage Tomlin. They just win a close game. They get into a fist fight with somebody. They go beat you up. Atlanta's a lot of window dressing. I think they're going to be circling it back going, okay. And they're going to tell themselves, hey, Pittsburgh's a good team, blah, 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 blah. But they were not explosive at all. That's what they're supposed to be. They got punched in the mouth because Tomlin's teams punch people in the mouth, and they had no response for it. So it's a bad start for Atlanta.
No, bad start for Atlanta. And what sucked is they had a promising start. Kyle Pitts scored, and everybody was like, oh my God, week 1, Kyle Pitts touchdown, freaking out like maybe this is the time where that offense gets uncorked. Just did not happen. Steelers end up settling in. And I'm not surprised at this one at all. I think on my show, I had kind of called this. I want to say Atlanta had moved slightly to like a 4-point favorite, maybe 3.5, something like that. And even I was going, that one smells like the Steelers are going to be all over this one, and they end up winning outright.
Bills beat the Cardinals, albeit it was not easy. They were down early. They were getting the ball like shoved down their throat. Kyler looked pretty good early.
Yeah.
Then we had our first kickoff return for a touchdown in that game. And the Cardinals are feisty, and they were right there with them. But Josh Allen is a maniac and put his team on his back and put his body on the line again and scored 4 touchdowns, 2 rushing, 2 passing. I saw some graphic last night that there's only so many, players in the history of the game that have like 4 games with 2 rushing touchdowns and 2 passing touchdowns as a quarterback. So Buffalo survived. That was the one that stunk to me over the other day. I'm like, if you're picking them in your survivor pool, watch out. That could be a car wreck. They're all new over there. Could be a slow start for them. But the slow start lasted a half, and then all of a sudden they woke up in the second half, and Allen is one of those guys that can make all of his receivers look pretty good, I guess, because that started happening in the second half and they survived.
And that's exactly what I had kind of said with Allen. I think the subtraction of Diggs is going to help his decision-making now. And I think I saw that in the second half. And not only that, Allen's now starting to do the alpha type thing where he's going to go, screw it, I'll go ahead and settle this and take this in. And like I said, I didn't think this is going to happen definitively because I don't like his decision-making, but yesterday if that's a good indication of what's to come, I really like them down the stretch if he keeps on doing that and he's smart with the ball.
Yes. Let's see. Caleb wins his debut. Didn't have a lot to do with it, though. They had a pick 6. They had a blocked punt for a touchdown. They were down 17-0, the Bears, but they win at home anyway over Tennessee. Clip of the year is Will Levis making a preposterous throw that goes the other way, and you see him on his knees looking up at the sky going, I don't know why I did that, which was really just, and I think every Tennessee fan is going, oh no. Like that's the Mona Lisa of him, like forever. That's the meme. Like if he ever makes any mistakes, they're going to show that over and over and over. Caleb's numbers are bad. I mean, he didn't even throw for 100 yards. So they got saved by their defense and their special teams. And I saw a couple of plays he made. He tries to go mini Mahomes, and he's getting sacked for 20-yard losses. So not unlike Daniels, he's probably figuring out the timing of all of this stuff. He's got, like we always say this, these guys are way faster than in college football. You cannot run away from them. He's got, unlike with Daniels, he didn't have a lot of excuses not to have really good numbers with the receiving core and the right. Like he's got real weapon. You could argue that's the best trio of receivers in the NFL. Like that's a real, so he doesn't have the excuse that Daniels has, but he got a win. So a win's a win, and we'll see where Caleb goes from here. And probably some of it is going to be the timing, just like with Daniels. It's new for him. But I will say this, in the preseason, he was completing 50% of his passes. It wasn't like he was really on when he played a lot. He made a couple of wow plays, but so we'll see. It might take a little time with him to get comfortable.
No, to your point, those wide receivers, you could throw to two of those wide receivers, you could toss a ball up and it's a 50-50 every single time. And the fact that he didn't have 100 yards with those guys, I imagine that wide receiver room not exactly happy today either. You know how this rolls, where you've got good wide receivers and they won, and that's going to smooth over some things. But a couple more of those performances, you know how locker rooms get, you know how wide receivers get. If they don't get the ball, it's going to get a little dicey there.
We'll keep going through the rest of the week 1 slate in a second. Brave watch the show ESPN 6:30 in Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. I think I don't even know if it's the upset of the day. I kind of saw this one coming. I thought that the Patriots-Bengals game would be close. Chase is asking for money, didn't get it. He did play, so they called his bluff on it. T. Higgins was out. I don't like what's going on with Cincinnati. I think it's a little weird. Whatever's going on with Cincinnati is a little weird. And, when we played New England at the end of the preseason, I looked at their roster, and I think I said this to you. I go, I buy them defensively. Like, I don't think they can score enough to win a lot of games. And in that division, if Allen's going to be fine and the Jets and Rodgers is going to be fine, and we know Miami could score, how are they going to win that division? Like, there's no way. They can't score enough to do it. But defensively, I buy them as they could be, and maybe it'll turn sideways if they don't win a lot. They could be a top 10 defense again. Like, I love their personnel, and Gerard Mayo's been there and done it. I'm not surprised that happened yesterday. Maybe some of the survivor pool people were, but I wasn't. Like, I wasn't surprised at all that game was very close, very low scoring, and Cincinnati ended up on the wrong side of it.
Yeah, I caught the end of that one. And the Patriots defense, one, was shredding them just a little bit that I saw. And two, they were also getting killed. I forget who was on play-by-play. They were getting killed by the announcers, which means that you know how this works. Even they were getting word that Cincinnati's going a little sideways here. Like, when they were going very hard at the end of the game, like, the early incompetence continues here in Cincinnati. And I was like, oh man, week one, like, we talk about all the time. Week one's chaos. Like, you shouldn't put too much stock in anything.
You don't know.
But the fact that even the announcers were kind of acknowledging, and that means they've heard it, that things are just not right there, and they were going that hard at the Bengals, I was going, oh no, like, if they already know, that means this could go sideways on them.
Let's see. I looked at this yesterday. It's really funny. The Commanders' schedule over the next, 6-7 weeks: against the Giants, 0-1, at the Bengals, 0-1, at the Cardinals, 0-1, against the Browns, 0-1, at the Ravens, 0-1, against the Panthers, 0-1. So on their schedule currently, they're not playing a team with a winning record until week 8, and that's the Bears, who barely won. So
got it. Okay.
Nothing. We know nothing about any of these teams, and obviously some of them are going to win before we get to them.
Of course.
But I thought that was funny that, like, we caught a lot of teams that are all going through the same morning today, like we are. Let's see what else. Yesterday we had, hold please,
your boy Tepper. Where's your boy Tepper?
Oh God. You think we feel bad today? Holy cow. Yeah. That's just terrible. The Saints blow out the Panthers. Game of the day, at least in the early hours, might have been the Texans and the Colts. Stroud had really great moments, a couple really bad ones too, a couple bad picks. Anthony Richardson has got an arm for days, but is it consistent enough? We'll have to see. If you haven't seen this 60-yard touchdown pass he threw, he slips in the pocket, gets up, and just flicks it 60 yards down the field to Alec Pierce. I mean, it's ridiculous. So he's got this arm talent that's evident and crazy, but it feels a little bit like Fields. Like, is it going to be accurate enough all the time to win? I don't know. And the Texans get away with a good win on the road division game.
Richardson looks like a vintage Michael Vick. Like, remember Vick would do that where he'd run around and he would literally flick his wrist and it'd go 60 yards. He's got a little bit of that in him. I don't know if he's got the actual passing game in him like Vick did.
No, I'm not sure that he does either. Let's see. Dolphins came back to beat Trev. after the weird morning where Tyreek Hill was detained for a traffic incident, which I need a lot more information about, like what's going on, but the video looks terrible, like really terrible.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's up with that. I need more information because, like, listen, that looks really bad, and I'm not trying to defend the police here because it looks terrible, and I don't know how a traffic violation outside of where he works goes, like, ramps up to an 11 like that.
Yeah.
But I also don't know what he said to the officers. So, you know, like, so I want to hear out the whole thing, but it looks terrible.
It also looks worse. Calais Campbell was interviewed after the game and said he actually tried to de-escalate things and he ended up in handcuffs. He didn't get taken to the ground, but they put him in handcuffs too. And I'm like, I don't really know how that happens. And Campbell's been in the league for like, what, 10, 12 years, something like that. So I'm sure he truly was trying to de-escalate things. They got some answers that they need to hand out today because that's really unacceptable.
Let's see. Your boy Harbaugh wins in his opener 22-10. Raiders not expected to be very good. J.K. Dobbins 10 for 135 and a touchdown yesterday. Chargers are going to run the ball a lot, even with Herbert as their quarterback. Starts off really well for them. Bo Nix makes his debut. They lose in Seattle. Close game though, 26-20. Geno just 171. Kenneth Walker, who I've heard is going to be a bell cow up there, 20 carries for 103 and a touchdown. So the Seahawks, that's kind of chalk. Seahawks at home are always very tough to beat. Dak got paid big time. So Jerry Buckles gives him the biggest contract ever, but gets rewarded in week 1. And I put the countdown clock on Deshaun because I think the Cleveland fans at some point are going, enough of this. We made the playoffs last year with Flacco. We were better with Flacco. It turned the page and bench him. Even I know he's making all the money, but I think we're a couple more bad games away from, I think Cleveland fans go, enough of this. Enough.
I agree. He's not unlike in the same category as Caleb Williams. That skill position group, you have no excuse. Skill position group and offensive line. Like, he has no excuse not to be good.
I called this last week the sneaky NFC championship preview. Lions Rams lived up to it. Great game. Two very well coached teams, two high level teams. Hope Puka Nacua is okay. I haven't heard anything yet about him. That stinks. Rams, great comeback. Stafford made some unbelievable throws. Detroit, tough as nails, baby. Will bite your kneecaps. Tough as nails, brother. Stick it, like, hang in there, win in overtime. So that's two top level teams. Watch out. This could be a week 1. We revisit this in the playoffs again. We'll see. And then tonight we get Jets and 49ers to end up week 1. Aaron Rodgers is back at San Francisco. That was holdout city. Let's see if Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams, doesn't matter. Let's see how Rodgers looks, how your boy Saleh does, when he has to adjust to whatever Kyle gives him. Give me the Niners tonight, even after holdout city at home, to beat Rodgers in his return. Better coach team. That's the way I look at it. Give me the Niners at home to win, probably a relatively close game.
Niners win tonight. They just have a better skill position group and I think a better defense. And also I think Rodgers is going to have to get his timing back too. He didn't play much, didn't practice much. He's going to have to kind of get back into, his game mode as well.
I will, not to disagree too much, but I will take the Jets defensive personnel over the Niners defensive personnel.
Okay. All right.
That's where I am on that.
Right.
Better team? Show me, New York. Show me. Yeah.
Fair enough.
All right, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. Brave Show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital.